Welcome back, everybody. We're going to do a quick workbench video on the Tikka T3 Super Lite. I mentioned in the first video I did on this rifle that I was going to do a few modifications to it, and the modifications are done now, and I kind of wanted to show them to you because I think they're worth your time to do and improve the gun. At least for me they did, in my mind. I did 5 things to it, and I wanted to just go over and show you those 5 things and kind of explain why I did them and what I did and maybe even how I did it a little bit. The first thing I did, of course, was take the gun all the way apart, which is really simple. It's just a matter of taking the 2 action screws out, and they're located right on the trigger guard itself. They call it they call it the bottom metal, even though it's made out of plastic. Once these 2 screws are removed, the bottom metal is able to be removed. The action falls right out of the gun. 2 more screws on the butt plate, and they are, you can see in those 2 holes on that rubber butt plate. It's a very stiff rubber, so what I was going to do is replace this. That's why it was removed. I'll show you exactly what we did here. Gun slip down a little. Once I had it removed from the stock, I foam filled the stock. I wanted to get rid of the hollow sound it had. It still sounds like plastic, but it's much quieter than it was. And also the second thing it had the advantage of doing is adding a couple of ounces of weight to the rear of the stock. I felt that the barrel was a little bit heavy on this, didn't balance well for me. So since it was taken apart there, I decided to go ahead and do that foam fill on it. Now this bottom action screw actually has some open ports that go right into the buttstock, as well as there's a locating pin on the original bottom metal. This locating pin also is hollow and goes clear up into the stock. What I did is just fill those with modeling, not hardening modeling clay. You can get it from your local hobby shop or craft store, and you know, a couple dollars to get you a package that's going to last you the rest of your life. Filled those holes, and then I mixed a 2-part epoxy type foam. Let me grab that and I'll show you exactly what I use. I buy it in these 2 huge bottles. The reason I use this stuff is I use it for other things, other hobbies. It makes a very dense, rock hard foam. It expands about 30 times. Very controllable though, very easy to use, and it's not that expensive. I don't recommend using the spray in can type foam on them. It simply doesn't cure well enough in a tight space like this, and it also does not cure as hard or as dense as this. This makes a very good filler, and it will cure. I just simply, once the stock was taken apart and the holes plugged in it, set it up in a vise. This one was just a bench with wooden slats that tightened down on it, just enough to hold it, and put masking tape up around the buttstock here. Had it inverted, and then with tape around the upper buttstock area up above it, and then a newspaper covering the rest of the stock for any overflow. That caught everything. Like I say, it's very controllable to use though, and I only ended up with about 1 inch of foam sticking up out, just the height of my masking tape that I'd taped off with. Had no leakage whatsoever. Gave a very solid feel, filled clear up into the grip area also. In fact, I had a little escape around the grip, but that tells me I got a good fill in there. And you can see it's a very nice solid sounding stock now, almost wood-like now. I've used probably 3 ounces of foam in there. Mixed it 2 ounces at a time, and it expands so quickly after you've mixed it, you don't have time to get it all poured in one shot. It took me 3 shots of mixing those 2-ounce pours. I probably only able to get 1 ounce in at a time, but like I say, it expands 30 times the size. Now 1 ounce is not very much. So once that was done, then I put the new Limb Saver recoil pad on. Now the Limb Saver recoil pad has a lot of give to it, and in a high recoiling lightweight gun like this, you probably want something a little better than the stock pad that it came with. Now this pad did require some work. It would have fit the way it was from the package, but it's more of a universal type fit. So I decided to match the original pad, and I'll show you what that entailed. I had to build a router jig, and I just used the Dremel as a router with a router bit in it, and I matched up this bevel right here on the butt plate. You can see how that fits down into the buttstock. This new one comes completely flat, but it's solid rather than hollow as this one is, and you can see how stiff this is. Extremely, almost rock hard. So I just used these dimensions, routed it out on the new one, and then also the inside of the butt plate was slightly curved, or the buttstock. So I actually routed this just a hair deep, and then sanded that curve into the hard plastic of the new recoil pad. The recoil pad was a hair oversized, so it's just a matter of sanding it down to match the curve on the buttstock, and you can see it's a fairly decent look now, and it's also much more recoil friendly. So there's 2 of the things I did: the foam fill, the new recoil pad, and then while I had the trigger guard out, I replaced the stock bottom metal, as they call it, even though it's just a polymer. And you can see the reason I wanted to do this. This is just a thin, very plastic feeling item. It does have metal washers inserted into it as it's formed. Now the new one was a very, very tight fit. In fact, it took me a little bit of working to get it into place in the stock. It does not have this locating pin in the new one, but I don't think it's necessary because it's a very tight fit. And you can see there's a slight shape difference on it. This one's a little larger, better for a gloved finger. I don't know if I like the looks of it that way. I would have preferred a little more rounded, but it's okay. Comes with, there's your release for the magazine already installed. So once everything was set, just put those, reassembled the gun. Of course, when I reassembled it too, though, before I get that far, I replaced the recoil block in it. Now, all these parts come from Montana Extreme. They make Tikka parts strictly. And here's the original aluminum recoil block. I'm going to get pretty close with this. Hopefully we can focus up. And you can see there's already a mark from the gun impression on this recoil block. Although this gun has only been fired through its proofing rounds, and it's already indented this aluminum block. Now, I've heard that these, and now I believe it, that these will eventually loosen up, and that causes accuracy to deteriorate. So this was replaced with Montana Extreme's stainless steel block. Same dimensions, fit the same, much tighter lockup though on from the action to this recoil lug, and it'll save you future accuracy problems by eliminating that pounding on this block and deforming it. So then I put the action screws back in, reassembled the firearm after those 4 things were done, and tightened the screws down. I tightened them to 40 inch-pounds using a torque wrench. I have a fat wrench. I recommend you get one of those. Great for doing scopes, action work on guns like this, making sure everything's the same. Montana Extreme, I believe, recommends 45 inch-pounds. I felt a little leery going that tight on it. We'll see. 40 inch-pounds was plenty tight and near the top end range of that wrench too, so I left it at that, and we'll try that out and make sure accuracy holds okay. The last thing I did was on the bolt. I said I was going to replace the bolt shroud. Get the bolt out here. The bolt shroud that it comes with is just this plastic bolt shroud. I've heard of these splitting, cracking, falling apart on you. You can see it's that same thin plastic on it. So what I did on that was purchase one of these metal bolt shrouds. Very similar in look. I'll bring it up here to compare. You can see it's got a few more machined flats on it. You can get these actually in a brushed finish that looks similar to the rest of the stainless gun, but since this gun is already two-tone, I elected to go with the black one. Matches the rest of the black parts on it. Very simple to install. You should know how to take the bolt apart on these to clean it anyway, and you go through the first procedure just twisting this. Pops right off. Comes with a anti-rattle spring in case you keeps some pressure on it so it won't rattle back and forth, since it is metal now and rather than plastic. So those were the modifications I did. I didn't want to approach the price of its big brother, the Socko, and make me wish I'd purchased a Socko out of the yard there. So instead I went this route, and that's about all I'm going to do to it. We're just going to test it out and fire it like that. And hopefully these are improvements that'll improve the longevity, and the balance is definitely improved by the addition of just a hair of weight in the buttstock with the foam and the metal parts. The length of pull was not increased any because I did work over the recoil pad just a hair. So I'm getting a little long here, so I'll close this out and say I think this gun is much improved now with a couple $100 worth of parts. The bottom metal's probably $150 or so. The shroud is another $60, and just a few dollars for the recoil lug and the recoil pad. So I'm still well below, the price of the Socko, but I think I've got a much better hunting rifle here. So next up, we're going to do some accuracy testing with the gun and see how we did on it. So thanks for coming along. See you next time.